I've lived this world for 17 years with no eyesight, and I wanted to share with you a few anecdotal experiences which might share with you how society, through equality practices, has aimed to support people with disabilities, and how sometimes it just doesn't work, and how that leads to a fracture within society and within our ability to actively take part. Whether that's my ability to independently take my children to a social event, to the theatre, to a sporting experience, whether it's my ability to work and access employment opportunities as society has access to and would want me to access, and whether it's things like healthcare. How do you get to a hospital appointment if you cannot access the transport systems that you may need to get you there? So for me, I'd like to really share with you a couple of experiences, and I want you to remember one thing when I tell you about these 3 experiences. They all occurred in a 1-week window. So the first thing to talk to you about is an experience when I left a railway station in central London. I was going to a station I was unfamiliar with, and I'd booked passenger experience to help me facilitate that journey. I was heading along with my guide dog, and as I went to meet the assistance point, the first challenge obviously is, where is the assistance? Because this was a large London termini, it was very quickly remedied, and I was able to find a member of staff, or rather they found me, and I was taken to the train relevant and asked if I needed assistance at the other end, to which I responded yes. I was assured everything would be in place, and off we would go. 20 minutes later, I arrived at my station, only to find there was no one to meet me, and in fact, there was no one. The station was unmanned. More than it being unmanned, the station was unpopulated. There was no other passengers, there was no one to help. The anxiety and the stress and all of the emotions that you can imagine go through your mind in these situations. It is not something that's limited to blind people. It is something that's experienced by many echelons of the disability community. These things happen, and they happen still in 2022. We would not accept it in many other facets of the equality agenda. The next experience that I'd like to talk to you about was using an accessible toilet facility. Someone at some point has written a wonderful document that tells us how we should produce tactile buttons. I was able to find the accessible toilet. I was able to press the button, which slid the door open. Excellent. I'm now in the space, and there's a tactile button to close the door. I could feel the doors closed. How do I lock it? Aha, there's a button with a tactile L for lock. Great. I press the button, but then what? Is the door locked? Is it not? I later established that this was indicated with a color-coded light. Yes, thank you. So that was just one of those other disasters. The third situation that I'd like to recount to you all is one of booking passenger assistance, which in the UK is taken a bit of a leap forward recently with the ability to book on an app. You may have heard of these things. They're available on smartphones, and most of society uses smartphones on a regular basis. But for disabled people, up until recently, we haven't actually been able to book our necessary assistance in a digital-first way until quite recently. The challenge with the deployment as it stands is, no doubt it meets everything that's on the equality statutes. The app is accessible. It works great with screen readers. It asks a variety of questions that really give the provider an understanding of what support I need. The problem is, it's unilateral. You either have the support or you do not have the support. I don't need the assistance at my local rail station. I know it. It's a waste of resources, and it deprives me of my independence, my autonomy. And it's a challenge that therefore exists We've used a framework, we've used legislation to attempt to accomplish supporting me, and at the same time, we've introduced yet another barrier, another challenge. So those are just 3 things that have happened in 1 week, and I think hopefully they've given you a flavor as to the sort of challenges that we experience on a day in, day out basis. It's exhausting, it's beyond tiring. You get very, frankly, fed up of endlessly repeating yourself. We are listened to for our advocacy groups. We are listened to through the activist sides of disability. But the message is not being translated. It is not being understood. It is not being transcribed in a way that actually makes a materialistic difference on the ground to enough people at enough of a rapid progress. We live in a digital society, and digital societies move at pace. And whilst every single person here today and for the next few days wants to make a change, is working in their own unique pieces of work, working collaboratively to try and improve things, we are going too slowly. We are dealing with a group of people who are already minoritized, who are already disadvantaged, and we need to do more. We need to look at, yes, the physical, yes, the practical, but we also must look at what we can do by way of technology, by way of soft solutions that can give meaningful and fast implementation to solutions to empower people to be more proactively engaged in society, to get the jobs they want and deserve, that society wishes to give them, to allow them to access healthcare, to allow them to access tourism and leisure opportunities, and to be frankly, fulfilled in society. I would like to finalize the note really by expressing that for me, I've been working for the last few years for GoodMaps, which there's probably a slide behind me now with a nice QR code on that you can all hopefully see. It's a personal mission for me to be part of the company. Obviously, it is one solution that's out there to help in digitalizing the built environment and allowing autonomy of access to spaces. It's multimodal, so it supports a variety of use cases. It is no means a silver bullet to solving many of these problems that we experience, but nevertheless, it is something that's scalable, rapid, and would make a tremendous difference to many people out there, whether that be wheelchair users wanting to find access to the nearest lift, elevator, whether it's a blind person wanting to be able to navigate a space that's manned or unmanned, but on their terms, whether it's someone who's deaf who wants to access the station environment but can't communicate with a member of staff, and whether it's someone perhaps experiencing anxiety who feels more confident when they can actually access that map that's tracking them in real time. And we also are hoping to help people from the neurodiverse community who perhaps find the environments that are operated by many of you daunting simply by their very nature, the noise, the sounds, the smells. You can learn more about what we're doing. We're at booth 1 over the next coming days. The exhibition hopefully will give an opportunity for people to come along and talk and ask any questions they may have. I'd like to thank you very much for listening. I hope that this opportunity of hearing this lived experience is not one that should be humbling. It is not one that I want you to go away with your heads hung low, anything like that. I want you to feel empowered. I want you to leave this room, and I'd like you to leave this event feeling enriched and feeling I can do something about this. I can make sure that those 3 events in 1 week do not happen again. And I'm going to go back to my organizations, I'm going to go back to our locations, and we are going to change that message. So next time, we are not reflecting on disability being that poorest of the equality cousins. Thank you very much for your time.